Thank you, Lizzie. Our commencement speaker today is Lori Valentine Cox, who grew up here in the Judith Basin on a wheat and barley operation, graduating from Hobson High School in 1987 with my magnificent father. During her 29-year career, she has been a passionate leader of production agriculture issues at the state and national level, having spent 20 years in professional fair businesses, including executive leadership. She now lives in Great Falls and owns the company 818, a company designed to help C-suite managers isolate issues and institute solutions. Please welcome Lori to the stage.
Thank you so much for that. Wow, this is bigger than Rotary Club, I just gotta tell you. Thank you all for having me here today. What a joy it is to see all of these students. You're one less than our class that graduated. One less. It's 16, and it was 34 years ago. This seems so strange, doesn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, you only get that definition because ladies give it to you or they don't. Just we're going to talk a little bit about this community, a little bit about where you could go from this community and why it's so special. First, I'd like to thank the Fair Board for allowing me to come here today and find the 1984 poster. Would you guys find it? I don't know what it is. It's missing. A little bit about me, for those of you who don't know, we were graduating in that year, that magic year of 1987, and we had a tremendous run. We had a tremendous run of sports, and we had a superintendent that accepted absolutely nothing less than win. He would come into halftime, and if we were behind, it was a bad scene in that halftime locker room. And that developed us as people. It really did. We went on, we've got several CEOs that have come out of our class, and quite a few, attorneys, bankers, those kinds of things. So the sky's the limit for whatever you guys decide to do. I grew up on a wheat and barley operation in Montana, and here in Montana over on the Moccasin Bench. And because we were in poverty wheat, we learned a lot about hailstorms, drought, all those kinds of things, lots of adversity. But one of the things that so many of you know who are my family here today is that my mother had multiple sclerosis. So from the time I was really little, both my brother and I would get off the bus and we would make that long sidewalk walk up to the house. And when we got to the house that day, we didn't know what we were going to find. She was very, very sick for most of my early life. And during that time, when we would make that walk, even though my brother is 4 years younger than me, we both had that same feeling. Was there an ambulance coming? Was the help crazy? Did we have nurses that were doing strange things, like dumping her into ice baths and she was screaming? Was she dying that day? That was my life. That's how it started. And she died when I was 22 and a senior in college. Why that's important is that my mother set the precedent that absolutely no one would ever call her what the disease at that time was called, the Great Crippler. MS was the Great Crippler, and it was. It's not the same today. They've got amazing development thanks to people like my mom, who did a lot of research with Washington, D.C., put in the first ADA accessible ramp at the old butcheries. You guys all remember that in Lewistown. And because of her persistence and her perseverance, she developed two kids who were overachievers. I would be one of those. So if any of you can identify with an overachiever, that would be me. The other thing that happened was 4-H. So for all of you who have been in a 4-H or FFA program, which I would imagine most of you have been touched by that, 4-H got me my first professional job at the largest public relations firm in the world. 4-H did it. It was because I had gone overseas. I did 4-H all the way. I did the IFFE program. And when I interviewed and they found out I was an IFFE and lived overseas for 6 months, I landed the job in Kansas City, Missouri in their agribusiness division of Fleshman Hillard. One of the toughest jobs I probably have ever had. One of them. So this community, of what you spoke of, Lizzie, this community is exactly what you say it is. This community rears you, which I'm so humbled to be able to come back and share with you that 34 years later, it's still a mark on my heart. 34 years. It will always be home. Always. Well, the thing about, ladies and gentlemen, about this and going on, is that what I'm going to talk about today is adversity. I'm not going to tell you that you need to go off to college and do all these things. You will make your way how you make your way. But there are some things that nobody wants to talk about, and adversity is one of those things. That's what we're going to talk about today. So you might think of adversity as a job layoff, through a divorce in a relationship. You might think of it as an F on a test that you were so prepared for and didn't get right. A death of a family member. All of those things are definitely samples of adversity. But in today's world, it's more than that. Today's world, it is emotional intelligence. It's how you react to social culture, race, challenges with your teammates on your job front. It's respecting other cultures from which you do not come from. It's being able to meld and being able to read that intelligence from those folks that are with you. Most important, it's being firm in your convictions. And ladies and gentlemen, always ask why. Ask the why in everything you do. Limit your social media, ladies and gentlemen. Limit your social media and talk to your neighbors. You will have a porch, use it. It's the most important thing your generation can do, because the one right before you got it wrong. Talk to your neighbors. So in adversity, the next thing that nobody ever wants to talk about, especially when you come from a long winning history at a high school like this, is failure. Nobody talks about failure, right? Can't fail. So in my case, I was very, very blessed by this crazy career, which I excelled at and took me to 3 different states to live and champion forward. Okay, so I had this roaring career. But failure comes along when I became the CEO of the Nebraska State Fair. We ran 350,000 people through those gates in 11 days, and I oversaw 1,500 people underneath me. And no matter what happened in that job, whether it was the 5 inches of rain we had, or it was the 7 inches of rain and kayakers in the middle of our fairgrounds the second year, nothing went right. Nothing. That's a little challenging. Adversity. So you don't expect things to happen that way. You expect a white picket fence and a wonderful red barn, and all the cattle are surviving, and the wheat's growing this big, and it's 85 bushel the acre. But my friends, that is not how life goes. The more that you challenge yourself today to understand that failure's okay, and you're going to lean into that failure, accept it, and know that it makes you stronger, that the failure actually builds you up, lets you rise up that staircase, and be better for it. Champion every time you get a failure, every single time. One of the things in that learning element is that at that failing moment, you have a choice, all of you. You can be broken, or you can be a warrior. You can be broken, or you can be a warrior. So leaping forward, where do you go? There is a leadership gap in the United States of America. It is screaming for leaders. screaming for them. The more of you that can set yourself on the track to become leaders in your community, on your school board, at the county commission level, U.S. Senate, wherever you set your sights, ladies, first President of the United States. The higher, the better. Set yourselves high, but insert yourselves in that leadership, in your own corporation that you create or the one that you work for. At the nonprofit that you serve, insert yourself as leaders. This country is screaming, sadly, for leadership. And I know all of you have been well prepared by all of this to do exactly that. I have confidence in you. So, I'm going to talk then in finality about true grit. So there is a woman by the name of Angela Duckworth, and in 2013, she's a mathematician originally, she did this very grand study. What makes people successful? What makes them great leaders? Why do they rise to the top? Is it IQ? Is it white privilege? Is it where they come from? Ranching families, urban families, people of great capacities of money? What do you think the answer was? Grit. Thank you. True grit. Who wants to be the grittiest of the bunch? It has nothing to do with IQ. It has nothing to do where you come from. It doesn't matter if your mother suffered from multiple sclerosis, and it doesn't matter if your folks were divorced like mine were. It's grit. If you want it bad enough, it will happen. It will happen for you. It's right here. All the way. Even with the failures, when you lean in and learn from the failure, it happens for you. At the start of 2020, when I was a CEO for the second time, I was at Nebraska then. I lost my father, I lost my job, I lost a relationship, and I lost my 21-year-old daughter in 4 months. Was I broken? Yes. Am I a warrior? You're dang straight I am. You get to choose. Broken or be a warrior. When I moved back to Montana, I chose Great Falls because it's the closest with a work friend to here. I did. Chose it because I wanted to be close to home. My folks are long past now. My dad's passing. But I have many folks that are here that raised me as well. And I wanted to be close. So I came home. I took care of my father's estate along with my brother. And you know what? I launched a business. In the midst of that, I launched a business. I've done no advertising, none whatsoever. I have more clients than I can count, and because of that, I'm now hiring people to help me. And that happened in a 6-month span of time. So class of 21, I applaud you. It's always up. It might go this way, and it might go this way, but as long as it's this way, you will not be broken. You will be warriors. Choose to be a warrior. Choose to be gritty. Thank you.